Uh,
Hello and welcome everyone to the Difference Makers. I'm Lynn Sanders, your host, and I'm so glad you've tuned in today. Our topic is accessibility included. What does it mean to have an accessible place? What impact does accessibility have for other people who come into your home or business? What results can businesses expect if they make their place more accessible? And what happens if it's not accessible? Well, today I have an expert to answer those questions for you and give you even more. Her name is Angela Fowler. She's the CEO and co-founder of Pure Access, a company that educates businesses on how they can be more accessible and bring greater results to those who want accessibility. Angela has a very interesting story to share. She's been totally blind her whole life and has learned to overcome various challenges and live to her highest potential by really digging deep in how to make everything accessible. In fact, she's going to also share with you her new and upcoming book, Accessibility Included, that will help everyone learn how to be making their place more accessible, as well as the results of what accessibility can mean. And so I'm very excited to have the accessibility expert here with us, Angela Fowler. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
well, thank you for having me, giving me this opportunity to speak about a very important topic that a lot of people don't realize it is important, because they don't. If you've never experienced an accessibility challenge, then how can you know how important accessibility is?
That's true. Let me ask you first to tell us your story of how you recognized that there needs to be help in getting more businesses accessible. How did you start with this topic?
So I've been totally blind all my life. And I'm an older millennial, so I wasn't exactly born with an iPad in my hand, but I picked it up pretty quickly. Once I got into high school, I was rapidly becoming one of the more tech savvy people in the certainly in my family. I was the one that everybody went to fix their computers and TVs and this and that, and that led to me teaching other blind people how to use technology, how to use a computer, how to use, eventually once the iPhone came out, how to use the iPhone. And I realized, gosh, some things just aren't accessible to me. Some websites I can't use because things aren't labeled properly, and buttons don't do what I expect them to do. But I can bull rush through a lot of websites that give beginner technology users fits, because I've learned tips and tricks on how to do that. And
Wow.
when we go to order a pizza online, for example, and the component that you use to build your pizza isn't accessible, you don't know whether you're adding sausage or pepperoni or, heaven help us, anchovies, you're going to get discouraged, you're going to get frustrated, and you're not going to order that pizza. So your access to that pizza isn't on the same level as that of somebody who is sighted, or somebody who is a whiz with technology, or somebody who doesn't have whatever the thing is that is challenging you. But if that website is built properly, and you can quickly build your pizza and order it, then the company gets your business not only once, but it gets your business time and time again, because you know that, oh, if I go onto this pizza place's website, I'm gonna be able to order really easily, and I just got home from work and I don't need to be challenged when ordering a pizza. So not only are you going to keep coming back, but you're going to tell all your friends about it too.
That is fascinating. Most sighted people would never realize what you're saying because we're not living in that world. Can you just tell us, how would someone who can't see, what's the technology involved? How would you be able to make something work when it's visual? Like even when we're talking, you can hear me, but if I were typing something, How do you make it work?
So I use technology that allows me to hear the information on the screen. So say, for example, you send me an email.
Mhm.
I can navigate to the email using my technology. It tells me, where I'm going, and then I can open it and it will read me the email. So on that pizza ordering website that we discussed, the technology will tell me, okay, large, build your own pizza. So you click on that or double tap on it,
Right.
as the case may be, and it will tell you, ideally it will tell you what ingredients you're looking at and whether those ingredients are selected or not. And then you add it to the cart, and you pay for it, and go on about your merry way. This is a process that should really only take a couple minutes to do.
I see.
Now I just want
So,
to add one thing about sighted people and the experience of using technology, because I
mhm,
have a 16-year-old son.
okay.
This child is better at technology than I am. He was using an iPad in utero, I'm pretty sure. Um, if I have a problem with a client's computer that I can't solve, he's the one I go to. But
Mm,
oftentimes, when I'm frustrated by a website that isn't accessible, he has trouble with it too. In fact, he'll exclaim, this isn't even accessible to sighted people.
real. So he's sighted
He's sighted and he
and
has
he
trouble with
noticed
the
it.
same. Yeah.
So,
So when I asked him, because I
huh,
was doing a little research for this book, so I asked him, hey, how often does it happen that I have trouble with a website and you have trouble with it too? He said 50 to 60% of the time.
wow. I'm talking about accessibility. Do you have any idea how many people have disabilities like yours that would benefit from greater accessibility? I'm just curious.
Roughly a quarter of the population.
Wow.
Be they blind, hard of hearing, deaf, cognitive disabilities, and making things more accessible for, say, blind people will make it more accessible for people with other disabilities. Because one of the things with blindness accessibility is don't require a mouse. If you can't use it with a keyboard, it's not accessible. But that not only helps blind people, that helps sighted keyboard users, people that don't have the manual dexterity to use a mouse. That helps people with, say, temporary disabilities. I mean, if you just had carpal tunnel surgery on your mouse hand,
Mhm.
you're likely to use a keyboard.
Right.
So accessibility there's a common misconception that accessibility is just for people with disabilities. But as anybody who has ever pulled a stroller, pushed a stroller, pulled a shopping cart up a curb cut knows, it actually benefits everybody.
I see. So people who are business owners who are creating websites, they need to know how to make their website accessible. Is that correct?
Absolutely. A lot of people think that their web hosting provider will take care of that. No. All the web hosting provider is a parking lot.
Mm.
The
So,
features that come with the car, what make and model the car is, that's up to you.
hmm. I see. So there's a way of putting in the right type of software, or just like there's closed captioning for people who are deaf and they can read the words on the screen. I would imagine
Yeah.
there's some for you as
Well,
well.
it's not so much software, it's proper coding.
I see.
And at the risk of getting way too technical,
Okay.
um, all right, a nugget for the real techie people. Semantic HTML is the building blocks is that proper grammar of an accessible website.
Out of the building blocks,
So
right.
you use HTML to build it. Java and ARIA, which is accessible rich internet application, to make all the fancy stuff function, like that pizza builder I was talking to you about. And you use CSS to make it look pretty.
Right? You've totally impressed everybody here now, because these are very technical terms that show that you really have an insight, which most of us wouldn't know because it's like another language. But it's important for people to know.
And for the
that you
sake
can
of
do it.
keeping our audience and, not having people fall asleep from boredom, I will dispense with the technical jargon from this point forward and start
That's fine.
speaking.
But the point is that people need to know how to properly code their website to make it accessible. That's what you're saying,
Absolutely.
which is very important. And I think many people never even consider that. So let's talk about what your new book is going to do, which is a wonderful, important topic, that accessibility included, that a quarter of our population can certainly recognize benefits from, and companies can. What's accessibility included all about?
Accessibility included is building accessibility from the ground up. It is a lot harder to retrofit a building so that a person using a wheelchair can use it than it is to build that self-same building accessibly to begin with.
Ah, right.
And where we must retrofit, we will do so. But the ideal situation is one in which we start thinking of accessibility the minute we start thinking of the project. So accessibility included starts by putting people in the mindset of thinking of accessibility. And we start by opening people's minds to the need for accessibility by showing them that people with disabilities are customers, potential employees, who, by the way, are going to be a lot more loyal to you than some others, because there aren't that many people, relatively speaking, who are open to hiring people with disabilities because they have misconceptions about what we're capable of. So the first chapter of Accessibility Included seeks to clear up those misconceptions and seeks to show people that people with disabilities are capable. We are your customers. We are your potential employees. We're your potential employers, for that matter. Not to mention your friends, family members, and neighbors. And we do that by challenging bias. We all have bias. The joke I use in the book is biases are like armpits. We all have them and they stink. And they do. And they do. I have biases. You have biases. You know how I know that? You're human.
Right.
But, so we acknowledge the fact, yes, I have biases. We embrace that fact and we say, okay, how do I challenge those biases so that I see the world differently? How do I suspend my disbelief about the capabilities of others and open myself up to learning?
Wow, that's really important. What are some of the biases that you've I'd love to, if you wouldn't mind sharing,
Sure.
Angela. You have told me privately before how you had to change yourself as you went out into the world, that you weren't naturally a social person. And if everyone's listening, they would probably think, well, she's a very social person. She's very outgoing, because you're talking so easily. What are the biases you had to overcome, and how did you do them to become a business leader right now?
I guess I had to overcome.
It's a hard question. Well, you face biases.
It is a hard question. I had to overcome my own biases and my own misconceptions about myself. That, not that I wasn't social, because sociability is something that can be learned. God knows I spent 40 years learning it, and I'm still learning things, what to do and how to carry yourself in certain situations, and how to not make a fool of yourself when that evil camera is pointed at you. I hate that camera.
Mhm.
um but in the name of making things accessible to sighted people, I will appear on camera whenever necessary.
That's very kind of you.
But I I had to overcome the idea, and to Lynn's credit, she's had to coach me up on this, that I really make a horrible visual presentation, and that I'm simply not visually attractive in terms. And
I
I'm not just saying looks. I'm talking about presentation, dress, bearing, the whole thing. I had to really, it took me a while to get to the point where I could say, okay, this is not something that you come with out of the box. This is something that you can build, something that you can develop. And this is something that if you're willing to take some honest feedback, this is something that you can actually grow into.
Yes. I never said horrible. I hope you didn't think. What I've noticed is that, when you don't think about visuals, and many people who are sighted don't think about visuals, they'll put together a website. People might not pause and look at the material because people like images, they
Yeah.
are captured by that. People can also be captured by intriguing dialogue. That's why podcasts are often just audio, because they want to hear what people have to say. So this conversation, this interview, what's great about it is we can take it and make it an audio as well as a video. But what you're saying too is that you've had to overcome biases within yourself. And I think that's something we all can relate to, because we all deal with these little negative thoughts that come up in our mind. And we have to recognize that they're just stray thoughts that don't mean anything, that we choose what we want to believe. And I think that's your book is all about that. Tell us more about what would you want businesses to take away from this book? What's important?
And there's so much more in the book. I just covered chapter 1.
Yes.
We can talk all night.
Well, give us a couple of
Accessibility.
bullet points at least. What are some main
Yeah.
topics for people to know about?
Well, absolutely. Accessibility isn't as daunting as you probably think it is. You're not, if a lot of people are afraid of the lawsuit, and I will admit there are people within the disability community who are so angry and who are so frustrated that they jump to a lawsuit before they really take the time to work with people. But if you're working to make your product accessible, that in itself is protection to some degree. Now, I am not a lawyer. Do not, my two co-founders are JDs. I am not that person, so don't take anything I say as legal advice. But working with accessibility specialists equals less likely to get hit with a judgment. I think I can say that safely. And we can do, we can build accessibility into your business in a way that fits your budget. Whether it's building a new website, whether it's doing things in phases, even implementing a sort of harm reduction practice where we take the most inaccessible things and solve them first, and then go on from there. There are multiple ways of doing this. So don't think that, my business is inaccessible, I have to burn it down and start over. No, you
I
don't.
see. So would you
No.
say your book is almost like a handbook for any business owner who wants to make their business accessible and reap the benefits of more money and more customer satisfaction?
It's a getting started guide. And you say reap the benefits, and you're exactly right. Because an accessible business will not only bring in customers with disabilities. I say about blind people, we're a nationwide small town. If a business has a reputation for being accessible, I'll tell all my blind friends who will tell their blind friends who will tell their blind friends. Now, if a business is inaccessible, every blind person in the country knows about it, right?
Wow.
Because we talk amongst ourselves of the virtual fence post gossip, right? And this extends to our friends and allies as well. But accessibility benefits everybody. A
Yes.
site that is built with the user in mind, when they go on your site, they can have that pizza ordered in far less time, which leads to far less cart abandonment, which leads to far more business for you, which leads to repeat business for you. Because when I come home from work and I'm tired and I'm grumpy and I just want to order a pizza, I'm going to go to the place where I can order a pizza as easily as possible.
Sure, that makes sense. And you're talking about millions of dollars of benefits for companies, because
absolutely,
quarter of our population. And then you're also talking even about accessibility for entering a business. I would think you were talking about that at the beginning. So I went to the University of Illinois, which is very accessible, and I was suddenly made aware of how important it is to have ramps going into buildings. And then, I'm sure that, you're probably aware of building places that have ramps versus those that don't, make it easier for you to get into.
Well, and the thing about a ramp is it doesn't just benefit people in wheelchairs. It benefits people who maybe recently had knee surgery. It benefits people who have invisible disabilities, where they get tired easily, where stairs are difficult. It benefits people who are carrying a bunch of stuff.
Right.
People with strollers. It's not, people call them wheelchair ramps, but maybe we should call them, I don't know, I don't want to climb the stairs ramps.
Right. I want it easier on my legs.
Exactly.
So this book that you have put together is in the process of getting published. And we're going to be sharing an image of the book cover soon. In the meanwhile, I would like you to share with us what would be one takeaway you'd like people to remember from this conversation today.
Accessibility will benefit you too. Accessibility benefits all of us.
That's true. Because we're all in this together, aren't we? And that's really what the world is about, helping one another. And you never know what can happen, whether it's on a world front or in a local community that affects all of us. So your book, I think it sounds like it's a great way to, pardon the pun, open our eyes. You're opening up people's eyes to a new way of looking at the world. And I appreciate that.
And once you get to the point where you're thinking of accessibility, you can't go back. Once you learn it, you can't unlearn it. We joke in my day job, which is also accessibility related, we joke about drinking the Kool-Aid. Because once you've drunk the Kool-Aid of accessibility, I had a designer I was talking to a bunch of months ago, and at the time she had just she'd just been working with us for a short period of time, and she was just getting introduced to this whole accessibility thing, and she was looking at some app for a large corporation. I can't remember what it is. And she's like, and there's no way this is accessible. And I wouldn't have even thought of this before I joined this company, but man, this is terrible. And I said, welcome to the club. You've drunk the Kool-Aid. There's no going back for you now.
Wow. Oh, that's great. Thank you. This is wonderful. So where can people find out more or be able to buy your book, Angela?
So the book is going to launch the projected launch, and you know that big word, projected, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you hear the word projected, and you're like, yeah, right. But we are going to do our level best to get this thing launched in Q1 of 2023.
Okay.
Meanwhile, you can go to www.pureaccess. That's PUREACCESS number 4 letter U.com, and Lynn's going to have it written on the screen for all the sighted people out there. So you go to www.pureaccess number 4 letter U.com, and you will be able to click on the link that basically takes you to our books page. So you'll be able to sign up for the newsletter. You'll be able to read the synopsis. We'll probably be posting other goodies as time goes on, so keep checking. And you'll also be able to contribute to our Kickstarter. We're a grassroots venture. We're basically funding this out of our own pockets. So if this moves you, if you think, oh man, this book needs to exist in the world and I want to be a part of making it exist, if you feel so inclined, please do contribute to our Kickstarter. And there's goodies in it for you too. You know, Kickstarter is, you're not just giving away money, you actually get things in return. So you contribute a certain amount, you get a signed copy of the book, and there's other, I set the tiers up months ago, and frankly, I can't remember them exactly off the top of my head, but yeah, if you were so moved, we would be so grateful.
Yeah. What is your goal? What are you looking to raise, Angela? Do you have that in mind?
I believe 11,000.
Okay.
But I'm not. I need to look at that again.
Sure. That sounds very reasonable, and I think any company, I would plug this for everyone listening, any company will benefit by being affiliated and associated with this book, because our world is growing to be more and more accessible and needs to be. And as Angela pointed out, businesses which are accessible will be able to reap benefits of having more profitability as well to reach more people. So go to PureAccess number 4 letter U.com, connect with Angela, support this book and her cause, and we'll be helping make the world a better place. I think it's a wonderful endeavor you're doing, and I thank you, Angela, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being our guest today.
Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to all of you and about a subject that I'm very passionate about.
It's important. Thank you.
Yep.
All the best to you and to everyone here listening. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.